Okay, so the Age of Sigmar Open Day is going on at Warhammer World in Nottingham, UK, and obviously there's a lot of news and releases discussed. So I'm just going to quickly go over some of the things and just provide a few of my thoughts as they go. So first up, not really obviously on display at the Open Day, but we all know that today is the day for the pre-order for Warcry. Um, and I just have just enormous high hopes for this game. It looks a lot like a lot of fun and a lot of variety. And apart from the six kind of chaos warbands that they've unveiled, there's a variety of the other factions that you can incorporate into the game. Um, I'm a little bit less excited about that, just because they're all models that I've already recognized. There's nothing new there, but I'm really hopeful that other things will be introduced, that there's more warbands, that there's other things that are going to be incorporated into the game going further. But really excited about this release, and so we'll see. So I'll put a big pin on that, and then we'll go to the actual new news. So I think it was Adepticon or maybe earlier that Games Workshop really kind of promised that there would be kind of a Battletome for every single Grand Alliance. And so they unveiled two more today, and this brings them into AoS 2.0, kind of gives them a little bit more of a modern feel. And some of these, the first one here is the Cities of Sigmar. This one I'm very excited for, simply because I have something like 15,000 points still of old Warhammer Fantasy factions that don't really have a home. All right, there's a few little rules here in the General's Handbook for a couple of these, but by and large, they've just kind of been left out in the cold, so to speak, since AoS launched without much of a home. Now, I still don't know what the long-term future of these things is, but this Battletome certainly gives them a kind of a sense that they're definitely part of Age of Sigmar and playable in a much more direct fashion than we've seen thus far. So this is basically combining all the other Order factions that are kind of left from mostly from Warhammer Fantasy, and just kind of combining them. Now, at the front of the main battle lines are the Stormcast and the major AoS factions that have been released over the last 4 years. But these are the people of the realms that are basically just kind of left, and within these major new towns and fortresses and cities, there's a wide variety of people living there. It's not just humans, there's elves and dwarfs and all sorts of things. And as a result, they have this very sporadic type of army that really composes of several different armies amalgamated under a single banner. And we'll see how that works and how useful it is and everything else. I'm not really expecting any new models for this type of range, but it's certainly interesting. This book contains no fewer than 7 different allegiance abilities. So it's basically 7 new armies that will potentially be added to the game. That has a mix of a Dwarden and elves and humans, and just obviously a massive roster of units. So they talk about the Scourge Privateers and the Ironweld Arsenal kind of joining up together and all sorts of things. So that's going to be interesting if they do it right, because there's certainly a lot of pros and cons to each of those types of little mini armies. They have a lot of strengths and weaknesses, and the ability to combine them could end up being really nice. But we'll see. Now, part of this is that they also said that a handful of Order units will be leaving the range. That's not too surprising. We'll see if this kind of handful of units, how many a handful really actually is in Games Workshop's eyes, and what units are actually removed will be interesting. And hopefully, as the years continue, more little handfuls of units aren't removed. There's just so much there in terms of the amount of units, in terms of the amount of rosters, that I think it's almost unthinkable that they would, re-release new versions of this thing, of all these units, even over the span of many years. There's just, I think they're more focused on new things that we haven't seen before. And I'm just not really sure still quite where the future of all these things are. But I think this is a very positive step. In the meantime, everyone thought that eventually there'd be some sort of Free People's Battletome. I think this takes it a little bit further, because Free People's, in my mind, was more about kind of Free Guild, maybe a couple dwarf units and stuff like that added in. But for the most part, now we have a wide range of other units that are going to be incorporated. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. The other big battle tome was the Orc War Clans. And, I think a lot of people, I think the changes to the Iron Jaws in the General's Handbook were pretty positive. We'll see when this actually comes out. It seems like a very quick transition to have made a lot of changes in the General's Handbook and then relatively quickly come out with a brand new army book that supports it. But again, I think that this is a pretty positive transition here. It combines basically Iron Jaws, and there's a separate army for Bone Splitters, and then there's a third choice which combines both into a single army. So you have 3 different armies in this book. I'm always a little bit skeptical when they, again, I guess from Cities of Sigmar, when they just combine things into a single book. It does make kind of the cycle of rules a little bit faster, which is useful. I mean, I guess they didn't split the Skaven into different clans either, so I guess in the long run it's probably a good thing, but it does definitely kind of shorten the amount of destruction armies that are overtly available in terms of the number of books. Now, I guess that's more positive. I guess you don't need to buy 2 or 3 books to accommodate 2 or 3 different armies, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds for this. I think both of these are pretty positive developments, and I'm pretty happy. But also a little wary. So up next is the new Ogre Tyrant. Now I know a particular Aussie YouTuber that's going to be absolutely thrilled about this. Not too many people have been probably playing Gutbusters over the last few years, but he's really been trying to rock them for the last little while, and it's nice to see potentially something coming here. It could just be a single model. Who knows? But it's more likely that this is part of something a little larger. Again, they didn't talk about a new book for these guys, but there's just some potential here that they didn't just make a single model. This is part of something larger. This is just kind of the display model that they have, and some speculation that maybe this is part of kind of a 2 Armies Clash box set. The little video that came out to promote this guy, talks about how it's time for the Feast of Bones. Feast of Bones sounds like a little fun little box set between 2 armies in the same way as a Blight War carrying Empire. So we'll see. That sounds fun, and I'm certainly always happy to see new models. And this is a very much an AoS themed Ogre. So he has like a little Stormcast helmet in his trophy rack and all sorts of little details like that. So that's nice. Again, one of these older Warhammer Fantasy armies truly being taken into the mortal realms and being, a legitimate part of Age of Sigmar, which I think is terrific. Now, one of the other things that they, just very much flashed here is, I don't even know if the model for a Gotrek, a Gurnison has actually been released, but they did this little teaser thing where they showed him and that little guy that's running away from the giant kit. He's part of the comics now. And then they had the bigger model of Thanquol. Now, and they kind of tease that that he's hunting down a Gray Seer. So what I thought was very interesting about this is that, just recently I had an opportunity to listen through the Realm Slayer audio drama about a Gotrek, and in that audio drama, obviously he's come back from the realm of chaos. He's a little bit confused about what's going on, and then he hears that there's a Gray Seer, and obviously he thinks that's the reason he's come back, is to hunt this guy down. So maybe this is alluding to something far bigger, some campaign of some sort, or box set, or who knows. But obviously these two have had their kind of complications in the past, and their kind of fate is very much entangled with one another. So pretty interesting to see why they would even bother to tease such a simple little picture at the open day. It must be a portent for good things in the future. So there we go. And the final thing I want to talk about today, last but not least, in my opinion, is Warhammer Underworld's Season 3 called Beastgrave. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. I mean, I think some people really don't have a lot of respect for Underworlds, but I enjoy it. It's a little fun game, and I love the unique warbands. As a Warhammer collector, almost first and foremost, I don't do a lot of conversions, so same with Warcry. The more like little small box sets that have like a lot of variety. Now, there's not a lot of customization here with Underworlds, but they all have very unique sculpts, and I absolutely love them. Now, I'm looking forward to what we see here in Beastgrave, which takes place in the realm of Gur, I believe, the realm of beasts. And this could be really cool. Now, one of my upcoming projects that I'm really working towards, I'll be doing a lot of videos about it, hopefully in the relatively near future, and lots of painting, is Beasts of Chaos. I love Beastmen. Obviously, my channel is called Hooves of Doom. And so they had a little teaser shot here for Beastgrave. And one of those is obviously a gore. So thumbs up if there's actually, a Beastman warband. I would be thrilled by that. And then the other picture in my mind is just a little bit more confusing. I haven't talked to a lot of people about this one, so I don't know if I'm kind of alone here, but I'm not really sure what that really means. It looks kind of like a wanderer, but more along the lines of like a war dancer archer, which they never used to have. But war dancers were kind of phased out from Warhammer Fantasy Battle, although their kind of aesthetic does fit better into the realm of beasts than the realm of life. And because it is the realm of beasts, wanderers seems a little weird. So I don't really quite know what to make of it at this point. I will say this. A few weeks ago, they teased the fact that there was kind of this little lion as part of one of the warbands. Now, it does have similar aesthetic designs to, say, something like the old High Elf White Lions, which are now kind of White Lion Rangers, I think. And so maybe that's a warband. And I think we've already gotten the main spread of armies through the first two seasons. So there's a chance here that the third season is more unconventional things, or things that are kind of preluding future releases or coincide with future releases. And that may be pretty exciting, because I don't know if it is a wanderer or war dancer or what have you, but it definitely looks more elfish, and we haven't seen many of those releases since Age of Sigmar release. So whether or not you like, Warhammer Underworlds, I think that this is something that could be a good indication of what's going to happen, and I think we'll see some interesting things with the warbands here. Final bit of news here, there was also a video put up just basically when I was making the video beforehand, and the video on the Open Day site is called A Tithe of Bones. Now, definitely some sort of undead death release related to Forbidden Power. As the narrative progresses here, this is one of the most interesting things about Forbidden Power and all these types of expansions, because this is a growing narrative, and they teased a lot about how the alliances that have already been established are perhaps fragile and might not be as secure as they could be. But now we have this other video, and it does, as I said, seem to be some sort of death release. I'm a little bit skeptical about what it actually means for the game, but time will tell. That's about as underwhelming as I can get for that one. It looks interesting, and it's the part 1 of multiple videos, I think. So we'll know more as more things come out. It does definitely kind of look a little bit Tomb King-ish, but I'm not positive. So we'll see. Have a good one. Bye.